Hello, I'm Mr. Baker. We are going to go through Unit 2 next. We are going to talk about cells. Remember, for lecture videos, you are expected to take notes just as if you were in a class and I was walking around the classroom lecturing. My suggestion is to write down what is on the slide, then go back and add anything that you think that is important that I said or that I told you was important. So first, we're going to talk about the cell theory, which is a basic understanding and outlining of everything we know about cells, but we're going to keep it pretty simple. Then we're going to talk about the big classification of cells, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. To talk about the cell theory, we're going to talk about the men that contributed to it in the 15 and 1600s. So way back in 1590, or around that time, give or take a few years, Hans and his brother Zacharias Janssen made the first microscopes. These were lens makers, so they created lenses, glasses, that could focus imagery. These were glorified magnifying glasses, but they were able to see cells by some accounts. Other accounts, they were just looking at things very, very closely. By 1665, Hooke uses a more modern version of the microscope, seen in the middle here, to publish his work called Micrographia, where he illustrates cells for the first time. He's credited with naming them after seeing what he drew on the right side here as small boxes that looked like where monks would live. These were very simple drawings, black and white, and the ones on the left are from a plant. That square shape is from the cell walls. Next, we're going to jump to Leeuwenhoek. I know his name is very close to Hooke. We're going to try to keep those straight. Leeuwenhoek is regarded as the father of microscopy, which was the use of the microscopes to study microorganisms. He illustrated another work. I'm not going to have you memorize the name of that one, so I didn't put it on the screen. But his microscope was much better outfitted with lenses. The 13 years we had gotten since Hooke, we had gotten much better lenses. And the illustration here has him holding his microscope up to his eye and looking at a small specimen through a little hole, kind of like a peephole. And again, we need a lot of light here. So he's actually holding it up to a candle to see the glow from the candle through it. He actually reportedly used this primarily to inspect the linens in his textile shops, but he would also study things on the side, and his work with microorganisms is what we are going to kind of worry about in biology. Right now, we're going to jump a few hundred years as science progresses and exploration happens. Right, microscopy doesn't get studied as much because we are starting to expand empires and learn new things about new organisms, and so it kind of goes to the wayside as far as popularity is concerned. But in the early 1830s, studying all of these new organisms is popularized, and we're using microscopes to do so. Schleiden is going to put forth the idea that plants are all composed of cells and that they start as a single cell, that all seeds or spores, however they reproduce, start as single cells. 1839, Schwann is going to widen that to say all plants and all animals are composed of cells, and that cells are distinct parts of all organisms. Plants and animals are the big separation of species at this time. So Schwann is in effect saying that all living things are composed of cells. 1855, Virchow is going to say that all cells come from other cells. So cells are what make cells. Reproduction happens. So if we put all of these ideas together and the work of these men across the centuries, we get these three basic parts of the cell theory. I want you to know these word for word. Most of the time, I'm okay with you paraphrasing things and restating them in your own words, I want you to have these exactly. These three statements are that all organisms are composed of one or more cells. Cells are the basic unit of structure and organization of all living organisms, and they only come from pre-existing cells. So cells arise, they come out of. Now, in more modern times, we're going to add this subpoint that cells pass copies of their genetic material onto their daughter cells. Regular biology, you don't have to worry about that one. Honors biology, I want you to add that one. All right. That is something that we will talk about in Unit 4, Unit 5, Unit 6. So it's going to come back for both honors and non-honors. But for now, we're going to keep it simple. All organisms are composed of one or more cells. Cells are the basic unit of structure and organization of all living organisms. Cells arise only from previously existing cells. These are the pillars of cell theory. They sum up a lot of our knowledge about what applies to all cells. As we specify different types of cells, we'll learn more things about them. But for now, that's what I want you to worry about. So, speaking of specifying types of cells, the two big categories are eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. Those are both adjectives. The nouns would be eukaryote and prokaryote. So, no matter what, both of these types of cells have a plasma membrane, a cytoplasm. They have some kind of genetic material. Almost always, this is DNA, and then they have some organelles. We're going to talk about what each of those mean in the next section. So if you don't remember those words from your reading or from previous science classes, that's okay. Prokaryotic cells are more simple. Eukaryotic cells are going to add what we call membrane-bound organelles. And the two classic examples of those membrane-bound organelles are the nucleus and the mitochondria. In the nucleus, they are going to store their genetic material, and since it's membrane-bound, it's protected. It's held inside like an envelope. And mitochondria, which is where we make chemical energy. You might have heard that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, right? That chemical energy is something called ATP. Again, we'll get to that later this unit. But for now, I want you to know that prokaryotes and eukaryotes share a lot of their traits. They both have plasma. They both have cytoplasm. They both have genetic material inside them, and they have specialized parts of their cells that do different things, organelles. Eukaryotes have those extra membrane-bound organelles that prokaryotes lack. Our question for this section is, which of these two do you think is a eukaryotic cell? You could say the one on the left, or you could say the one on the right. I want you to use a complete sentence and maybe tell me why you think that, right? So pause, look at the image, all you need, write your answer down as a complete sentence. That's going to be part of what I look at when I grade your work tomorrow. I'll see you in class.